Good afternoon and welcome to Content Chat. I'm your host, Erica Heald. And since we're still in the heat of summer, especially here in Northern California, we are having a special Content Chat short. Some actionable tips to help you do your job easily so you have more time to spend outside. All right. I know for a lot of folks, getting asked to show how you are optimizing your content for SEO and for generative AI search can be kind of stressful. You know that you're doing things that should help you turn up in those results, and that should make sure that your brand is coming across the way that you want. But what exactly is it that you should be telling other people? How do you explain it? Especially if you're in the situation where most people on the leadership team think of SEO as keyword stuffing and other kinds of fluff that you don't necessarily need because, of course, your product is great, your services are fantastic. So why do you need all that stuff anyway? We're not going to cover that part of it. Sorry, not a short topic by any means. And we have gone into it a little bit in a few earlier editions of Content Chat this year. What I'm focusing on right now are some very simple items that you can add to your content review checklist to make sure that every piece of content that you're creating is optimized for both search, traditional search, and for coming up the way that you want in generative AI search and summary. First of all of those, same things that we've been wanting to do from a content marketing standpoint over all of these years, those things are still important. They still work. You still want to be creating content that is very easy to scan, that has subheads, relevant subheads, has lists, has things structured in a flow that makes sense. So you're not using an H3 because you like how that text looks. You're using an H3 because you're talking about something that's a sub portion of the H2 above it. I know that's a little nerdy, but I've certainly seen implementations where content has been tagged a little haphazardly, and that makes it really confusing for a machine and for a human, for that matter, who's coming to your page and trying to understand what you're talking about. You also want to make sure that you keep your paragraphs pretty short. No, you don't need to have every piece of content on your page be shorter than an original tweet, but you want to keep paragraphs in the 3 sentence or less. You want to break things up by having good visual breakpoints, whether those are images, diagrams, listicles, whatever you need to do in order to give people a few different ways to understand your content. You also want to make sure that any facts that you're citing, that you have those proof points actually cited, that you're linking to a valid first point of reference. Not a roundup article of 18 marketing stats you need to know, but you're actually pointing to that piece of data or the original piece of content that has that information. By all means, though, you want to make sure that you're also citing your own internal experts, especially if they have content that's been published on third-party sites. So cite that content early and often. Make sure that you're also having clear calls to action, that people understand what it is that you want them to do. Having all of this kind of stuff, structural basics, helps the AI understand who you are and what you're doing, which are some of the very basic questions people have when they come to any piece of content on your website. They want to know who you are, what you're doing, how this content is going to help them. Now, when you're also looking at optimizing for your content for generative AI, you want to make sure that you include as many tangible proof points. You want to show people what you're talking about, not just tell them. So whether that's having those subject matter experts giving real life anecdotal examples, or sharing proprietary data that you have, having quotes from your customers, whatever you can do to actually show people instead of telling them is going to be incredibly helpful. And from the AI perspective, those kinds of proof points are telling it that you're not just making up a bunch of baloney and saying things that are aspirational with your content. You're actually showing that you have expertise in the area that you are creating. Now, you also want to make sure that when you are using the language in those subheads and in your headlines for that matter, that that's what your content's actually about. That you're not just having pithy 1 or 2 words on a page, using it to break things up visually without having those headlines and those subheads actually help draw somebody into and understand the copy that comes after it. I know that seems pretty obvious to us content folks, but I cannot even count the number of times I've had designers ask me to have all of my subheads on the page be 1 or 2 words. And the thing is, well, sometimes you can do that. Frequently, you're not able to provide value to your reader by having something that doesn't have any context, by not using those longer tail keywords and examples that show that you really do understand the needs of your audience. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how beautiful your page is if both the humans and the robots that come to it can't understand what it is that you are trying to accomplish with that piece of content. So I hope this gives you a little bit of extra ammunition the next time you're up against one of those thorny conversations where people are asking you to prove it, that you really know what you're talking about, and that you need to have all of that content on that page. I'm Erica Heald, and we'll catch you next time on Content Chat. Bye, everybody.